The Morning Huddle Construction Show is fortunate to have 5 sponsors for season 7, helping us to spread the word and create positive change in the construction industry. And we want to give a shout out to each of them and thank them now. First is Katz Abosch. This is a middle market accounting firm with a deep specialization in construction, tax, audit, accounting. Fantastic group of people. Next is Lawrence Law. This is a boutique law firm that works with contractors and helps them with their day-to-day legal needs as well as all of their most significant legal challenges that they might run up against. Lawrence Law. Then we have Sandy Spring Bank, which is a regional bank in Maryland with a group of people who really understand what the needs of construction businesses are and who partner with you to achieve your financial aims. So Sandy Spring Bank. And then we have Marsh McLennan Agency, bonding and insurance professionals who really just have unparalleled insight into the construction industry. They're the best in the business. And then lastly, we have Genesis AEC. And Genesis is a full service architecture, engineering, and construction management firm with a deep specialization in the life sciences industry. We also happen to have some of their folks help us with guest hosting from time to time. Good morning. It is morning huddle time. Good morning, Chad Prinky here with you today. I am back off the road. Last week, I got to enjoy the ABC National Conference out in Las Vegas. I was out there for, I think, officially the most days you can possibly do in Las Vegas. It was 4. I can confirm that is enough. But had a really nice time. I was fortunate enough to be asked to give a presentation and ended up signing about 100 books out there, which was pretty cool. My hand was tired and I was weirdly embarrassed, which is something I need to get over, I guess. But that's been a really positive experience. If you hadn't gotten the book, check it out. Well Built: How the Top 2% of Construction Contractors Drive Superior Value, Profits, and Excellence. It is so far so good. It's been extremely well received, a bestseller on Amazon, and I've heard from multiple sources now, and a few that would shoot me totally straight that the book doesn't suck. I wanted to share with you this morning one in thinking about Women in Construction Week, and we have a wonderful guest on today to take us even deeper into this subject area. But I just wanted to share one human story with you. That there's a woman in construction that I've known has been working for the same company for as long as I've been working with that company as a client, which I think is about 15 years now. And when I first met her, she was just the most competent receptionist that I could have ever imagined in the business. She worked the front desk. She was, always, pleasant and efficient and helped to get you to the right people. And I think also did a very good job of making sure that people didn't feel horrible when she kicked them out because they didn't have access to the right people. I watched this company, and the story is really, it's a shared story of success, but I watched this company engage her and sort of say, listen, I want you to see what you could do here if you want to do this here. And that combined with her ambition and desire to grow, moved her into a project coordinator position from being a receptionist to advancing into being an assistant project manager several years later, and then becoming a full project manager and soon to be senior project manager. I would imagine that's coming down the line. She has just advanced so incredibly well, and I think that story for me represents some of the maybe non-traditional paths that people, but women in this instance, I'll highlight, but that people will find to come into roles in the construction industry. I guarantee you, she did not think that she was going to end up being a project manager at a large general contractor, but that's exactly what's happened for her in her career because the company showed her a path and because she wanted it and she clearly had the capacity to do it. But it takes I think a willingness on both sides of that equation of an employer and employee to see the potential. And I applaud the heck out of that person. If you're listening, you know who you are. I don't want to call you out without your permission on the air. But such a wonderful example to me, of seeing the opportunity and jumping on it, and certainly kudos to the organization itself for creating that opportunity. So with that, I want to introduce our guest today. Our guest is Jennifer Wilkerson. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Chad. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to see you. So, Stacy speaks incredibly highly of you. Stacy's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm not going to be able to be there for Jennifer." Stacy is giving a speech right now for Women in Construction Week, I think, up in Philly, which gives her a chance to go hang out at home too, which is nice. Mm. But she's jealous that it's just you and I hanging out today. But Jennifer is the vice president of innovations and advancement at NCCER. That is the National Center for Construction Education and Research. Jennifer, if you can just give a little bit of background on exactly what the organization does and what you're doing inside the organization.
Sure. Absolutely. So, NCCR, we've been around since 96, and really our goal is to develop quality training for any of the trades that are in the construction industry, from carpentry and pipe fitting to solar photovoltaic, you name it. We have 40 different crafts that we develop that. But more importantly than that is that we have portable credentials. And so, as an accrediting body for the industry, organizations that want to teach this curriculum get to go through our train the trainer and our instructor certification, and they teach in a standardized way so that when their learners get through, whether that's high school, corrections, a contractor, community college, wherever it might be, they have a unique identifier that they can give to a potential employer that shows their full transcripts, just like higher education.
Mm,
And so, I think that there's so many things that we do that are so wonderful as a nonprofit for the industry, but I am so proud that we provide a way for our craft professionals to really show the training and the credentials that they have no matter where they go.
Awesome. I love it. That's a great description of sort of the mission of the organization then is to what, to advance the construction industry, to attract more people into it. Like what's the big picture?
Really, we want to improve people's lives through construction education. We truly believe to the heart of it that education provides people um, economic opportunities that they may not otherwise have. I think that construction can take people out of generational poverty, and if they can't afford to go to college, this isn't an alternative. This is an option. This is a fantastic option that provides so much training and so much career advancement. You just said it with your example, right? You can start on your tools, whether that's behind a desk or it's on a project site. You can end up being the CEO of a company. That
Absolutely.
doesn't happen in a lot of industries, but it happens in the construction industry.
Yeah, it is such a wonderful space. We were talking briefly before we went live here about, the consolidation that's going on in the construction industry, the sort of very busy mergers and acquisitions landscape, and what we see happening there. I sincerely hope that we don't lose our entrepreneurial spirit throughout, because I think that entrepreneurial environment is precisely what allows people these types of opportunities for advancement. There's not a lot of red tape. There's not a lot of bureaucracy. There's not a lot of BS. Construction is a space where I feel like if you're good, you're good, and we
Yeah.
see it, and we're going to give you those opportunities. And I think so. Along these lines, what we also want to make sure that's true about is women in construction.
Right.
We
Right.
right. I mean, so we got I could that is certainly my perception of the industry. And I've got lots and lots of stories personally of watching women in construction capitalize on their own ambition,
Yes.
ability, and operating in environments where, if anything, being a woman was almost a superpower, because they were like, wow, you're different and special. Let's put you in, but like where they weren't, I don't think, in a disadvantage, but I'm a very white male. Let's be clear, like I don't, I have a very limited scope, and I recognize that, right? Like we all have we can only base it on our life experiences, and I think, as my dad reminds me, right? You know nothing about other people's experiences, right? You only know yours. And so that's one of the reasons why I love this show, is we have so many people on where we can talk about different experiences. Um, so talk a little bit about the work you've done. You recently pumped out I guess in partnership with some folks, a big study of women in construction. Talk a little bit about what that study was. Lay out the sort of demographics, and then tell us a little bit about what some of the key findings were.
Sure, absolutely, Chad. So, for us, we're on the field side of construction, right? There's so many things that you can do, but we really focus on the field side, starting on your tools, going all the way up to superintendent to prepare you to get into that C-suite. That's what we want to do. So we really wanted to look at the field side, and we interviewed 176 tradeswomen on project sites across North America to really get from them what are the unique qualities that women bring to the construction industry, and what do we need to do as an industry to attract and retain more women in the industry. And also with that, what we did was we teamed up with Ambition Theory that
Yep.
is actually on the other side. So with Andrea and them, they do it for the executive side, right? They're looking at leadership and helping women once they get in that space in the office, the C-suite, or wanting to come into it, that they can help them there. And so what our goal together is to bring out these qualities, bring out this information so the industry as a whole can see it, but more importantly, so women can see where they fit in this industry. It's like you said, listen, there's a lot of young people going into construction, including women, because of the entrepreneurship opportunities and being able to climb that ladder. But, for us looking at it, some of the unique qualities, we asked not only women, we asked their managers, we asked other men that work with them. And what we found out was, and we all know this, right? Women bring a very different, as you said, mindset to a project. And some of the things we've always heard about is attention to detail, organization. Women
Hmm.
are just, it's just something about women. They just do this naturally, right? But more importantly than that, what we've heard over and over is they're very team focused. Women have this natural ability to be with a group of people on any kind of team. They know when something's not right with someone. They're asking about that. They're concerned about that. I use the example all the time. Listen, my husband's 59 years old, been a welder since 1988, owned his own company, worked with lots of crews. I guarantee you, my husband never on a daily basis or even once ever said, "Hey, man, something seems like it's wrong with you. You seem a little off today. You need to talk about it." I wish men did that, but guess who does do that naturally? Women do that naturally. They're very in tune with what's going on. And I think as we see our industry grow and grow, it's something absolutely that we need. We've always had camaraderie. We've always had that, hey, we're in it together, let's do it. But we also need to bring that emotional intelligence and that mental health and awareness to it. And I think women bring that to, and the women said it, and the men said it, and the managers said it about that about women. So that's something that was really unique and wonderful that we found out as we interviewed these women.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It validates, right? With some data, perhaps some of the feelings that I've had. I've certainly seen. I mentioned that I think about a lot of the women that I've seen in construction. I honestly, it seems to a degree like they do have a sort of a superpower, and that superpower might in fact be this level of awareness of others, and this no shame caring, like I
Right.
can
Yeah.
care for these people, and
Yeah.
that's like good. And and everybody looks at that and they're like, that's really nice, we really need more of that. We
Yeah.
like it, and I think it is um a requisite on the path to leadership,
It
for
is.
whatever
It
that's worth,
is.
right? Great
It is.
leaders are empathetic. Great leaders care, and they demonstrate that. And so I think, in all honesty, women, if they embrace that sort of natural tendency, not, and look, we're obviously generalizing. I'm sure there are plenty of I know there are
Absolutely.
plenty of women who don't, but on the whole, right?
Absolutely.
Statistically, women are going to have some more of these traits. If they embrace those traits, that is by itself a pathway to the top.
And
Uh,
that's what leads to transformational leadership, right? And this year, each year we do in the month of March a state of the industry with ambition theory. And one of the real focuses this year for ambition theory was transformational leadership, which means it's more than just tenure, it's more than just skills. It's really about that bigger picture of helping, encouraging people and
yeah.
getting involved with them and everything. So I think what we saw in the field even before this, that's you're absolutely right. Those are pathways to leadership, to really strong, great leaders that people want to work for.
Yeah, whether that's the a foreman or a superintendent
That's
or a
right.
construction executive, it doesn't matter. Like those are traits that you absolutely need to have. I cannot tell you, Jennifer, how many training sessions I and my team have run specifically aimed at field leadership that quote unquote don't know how to talk to people.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's really, really common, seriously. So if you have those gifts, if you have those traits that you know how to talk to people, that is a significant advantage. So let me ask, what are some of the things that women in construction are telling us about what it takes to attract and retain more women in construction?
Right. And there's some simple things that we already knew, right? Like women don't even know that this is an option for them. So
Right.
number one, I mean, they really don't know that. Another problem is the women that are in the industry. 57% of the women that we interviewed had never had a woman as a leader on a project site, not
Mm,
as a PM, not as a foreman, not as a super. 57%. And we know the old saying: if you can't see it, you can't achieve it. So they don't even think there's an opportunity to move up, whether you're on the outside or you're on the inside. But, there's other things. Obviously, there's no surprise that there's concern about discrimination and sexual harassment on the sites. Now, I'm not going to beat that, like a dead horse or anything. But here's the point with that: it still exists, and I know it still exists personally because my daughter, that's 22 years old, that's a field engineer, is still experiencing that,
really?
and she's experiencing it when like I said, not only do we see it in the research, but you have companies that their executives are very committed to this. They are very committed. I've talked to them, whether it's through research, whether it's on the speaking engagements I have. They want this. You know who doesn't know that they want that? The superintendents and the foremen.
Right.
Who hasn't been trained or hasn't expected that. Sometimes it's a big like, whoa, what are we supposed to do now? And how does this change that? And we have to push it down. We have to push it down so the foreman, the superintendent, everybody's comfortable with that. So one of the things we found, not only when we did the research, but even as we've gone on for that, is I do believe our industry is committed to this. I do believe there's a workforce shortage. They know that we need to recruit different people, people of all races, of all genders. Like, we need them in our industry.
Right.
We
Yeah.
are a great industry.
We need to not be exclusionary. We need to say,
Absolutely.
hey, everybody welcome. But a prerequisite is certainly a willingness to work hard.
Oh, 110%, 110.
Right.
And I'm totally about merit. Listen, I'm always about that. You need to hire people that want to do the job and can do it well. That's 110%. But what I think that we have to realize too is, and I'm going to say this with no offense, it's been the old boys club for a long time.
Mm,
So yeah, they're not, yes, they have wives and daughters and
yeah.
sisters and everything, but they don't think about that when they show up at the project site, right? Like, they're not thinking about, is this, am I would I say this in front of my wife and my daughter and my mother and my sister and stuff like that? So we have that, but I think we have other things too. So, we still have women are still the typical caregiver for their families, whether that's their parents that are aging or their children. And one of the things we haven't done well as an industry to think about, how does that family dynamic, if we want people that are the primary caregivers to choose us to be the industry of choice and the projects of choice, we need to start thinking some of that outdated thoughts we've had. One of the easiest things that like blows my mind, and even when I talk to contractors, like, we can do that. Women on large industrial sites said, look, I can be there on time. I have no problem. But I have aftercare and I have to pick up my child by a certain time or I start getting charged fees on top of that.
That's
So
right.
could you have parent parking a little bit closer to the gate? Because it takes me about an hour to get out the gate trying to leave. I tell people that and they're like, yeah, we can have parent parking. That's just like an easy so there's some simple things like that.
Mm,
How about PPE that's actually made for women?
right. Yeah,
There are
we've
some
had two shows on that. Yeah.
there are incredible women-owned companies out there. Listen, I weigh 110 pounds. Your extra small men,
Still too big.
PPE, it's not going to fit me. The
Yeah.
vest is not going to, I've put them on. You know what I have to do? I have to paper clip them behind me to try to make them fit me because if they're in my way, I'm dangerous if I have it dangling over. I'm going to do something. I'm doing pipe fitting, I'm doing welding, I'm doing carpentry, I'm doing
Right.
electrical. And it's this big vest that's fitting me, or I don't have the glasses right, or I don't have the correct boots with the steel toes that I need, or the gloves. You think my hand fits in a glove that was made for a man? I hate to tell you, but it doesn't. And by OSHA standards, it's supposed to be properly fitting PPE. And so we need to think about that. Are we, if we want women there, first thing you can do is show women you don't want them if you don't have the
Right.
proper PPE for them, right? Um, and then you know what we heard over and over? Women talked about, look, I don't expect exceptions. I want if I'm on the site and I've chose the field,
Right.
I do want to be treated equal. What I love about this industry is that we have a lot of gentlemen in this industry, and they're like feel bad if a woman's carrying something or she's doing the harder part of the job. Oh, let me get that for you. Women don't If women don't get to do the hard part, they're never going to get to move up. They're never going to get to learn those skills. So the women talk to us about, give me the chance to do it. Like, show me how to do it right, but I want the chance to do that and learn that so I understand it.
Yeah, it's fascinating type of conversation. A little bit of um, uh, creativity on
Yeah.
just creating a more workable environment for primary caregivers,
Yeah.
be they male or female. But let's also just be honest. There's lots of
Absolutely.
women
Right.
who are the primary caregivers in their household, and so some consideration for that, for primary caregivers, and then disavow yourself of the idea that you need to have special accommodations, because you don't really need to have special accommodations. In fact, special accommodations make things worse. So
Yeah.
if you're
Properly
like,
fitting PPE, but not the other
not a
special,
special
like, we
accommodation,
we do
that's
need
just,
what fits us, just like you need a
my
2X or a
lord,
1X or whatever, like, we
there's
need that.
nothing special about that accommodation, right? You know what I mean? Like, that is like normal. Like, I can't put you in unsafe clothing. How's that?
Right. Right.
Right? That's not special. That's common sense, and we need
Right.
to get over that. Right? That's not an accommodation. That's just like, oh crap, I got to order that too. Yeah, you got to order that too.
Right.
Figure that out.
Right. Right,
Um,
absolutely. And with the mothers, here was another interesting thing that the women talked about, and this is a bigger one. I know this is like blows some people in the construction industry mind because guess what? We always start at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or we're earlier than that. And we always, obviously we have overtime, we have all kinds, that's the beauty about the industry, right? Like you can work this,
yeah.
but we are so adverse to shift work when think about this. Think about how long you could keep a project site going if you had some people that started at 5 till 2 or 3 and you had other people that picked up. Some of the women said, "Look, I have help for my kids in the morning, but I don't have it in the afternoon. I'll come in early."
Hmm.
Or other ones that said, "Look, I don't have it early in the morning, but I do have it now. I'm willing to work really late." I think we need to start opening our minds. Like you said, need to start getting
Little creativity.
creative.
Yeah,
This is the world we live in. There are a lot of one parent families, men and women out
that's right.
there that would love to be in this industry, but they go, "Look, they tell me these are the hours I have to show up. Like, I need help. I can't do that."
Yeah, that rigidity is often unnecessary. That's what I find. It's not, it's, we can work through most of this actually if we don't force ourselves to be super rigid. And it's, again, it's not, this isn't a female thing. It happens to be that there are more females who are primary caregivers, but that's anyway. I think so I want to comment on something, or talk about something a little bit together. Um, I have noticed in the organizations where we'll come in, the first thing we do when we start working with a new company as a consulting firm with Well Built, right, with my company, is we do like a whole organizational analysis, and that includes a cultural analysis of where they currently stand, and in that cultural analysis, it is very common that we'll have at least one or two comments from women who are sort of like, I feel like my voice is marginalized, or I feel like people aren't noticing me. And I have to tell you, and I mean this with also, and again, remember, you're the whitest, malest person that you can possibly be talking to. I have looked and looked for evidence of this, and I can't see it. And so, what I'm genuinely asking, are there things that, so and another piece of this is, right, you mentioned the old boys club, and I sit there, I'm like, I don't think any of us know that we're in the old boys club. I don't think
I think
we're
it's true.
even
I think it's
aware.
true.
I don't like. I want you. I really want to say that I'm certain there are some bad actors out there, no doubt about it. Like there are always some bad actors, but the preponderance of males in the construction industry are not saying like, let's make it hard on women, eh? Right?
Right.
They're not
Agreed.
trying to do that, and so are there things that we are that you see men in the industry doing or failing to do that are sending messages of your voice isn't important, or you don't stay in your place, or like any of those kinds of things that I don't think anybody that I would consort with has any desire to communicate those types of messages? Are there things that we do and don't do that kind of communicate that on accident?
It's interesting because the report that came out from Ambition Theory, one of the things that they talked about a lot was there are men that are willing to be mentors, but they're not willing to be sponsors.
Right.
And there's a big difference between you helping me understand the skill sets I need and mentoring me in that area, and then being a sponsor, meaning you're going to speak up for me. And when we're going to a client dinner or we're going to a project management dinner, you're going to make sure that I'm invited to that. And you're going to make sure that I do. So I think that we do. I do not think the majority of it's intentional by any means whatsoever. Listen, like I said, I have two girls in the industry. My husband's in the industry. We're in it to win it. Like we are a family committed to construction.
Yep.
But I do think, especially when you have young women coming into the industry that already will have the tendency maybe not to speak up as much, that by no intentional fault, they're not speaking. People are talking over them. They're not meaning to do it. They're just trying to fill in for that girl that's hesitating to say what she wants to say and not giving that little bit of time for her to speak up and say it. I think this idea of sponsorship plays a huge role. I told my daughter when she started going into the field, I said, listen, you need to find your people. You need to find your people, and you need to make sure that some of those are men. You need those allies. You
Yeah.
need an allyship. You need to be with someone that's going to help you out there, that's going to encourage you, that, like I said, is going to open some of the doors. So I don't think it happens intentionally, Chad, but I do think that with the thought of helping that person that's not speaking up, they're jumping in a little too soon. They're jumping in a little too soon to help them. And I would think from a man's perspective, you're like, "Oh, God, I really think that, Julie's great on this job. I just want to commit to helping her. I'm going to jump in wherever I can." Again, that goes back to the equal treatment. Give me a little bit of time. Like and when we get through with that meeting, say to me, like, "Julie should have spoke up," or say, "Hey, Julie, what's your thoughts? Like, I haven't heard anything from you." Make an effort to actually ask that person in the room that hasn't spoke up and say, "What are you thinking about this? Like, do you have any thoughts?" Because I don't think I do see it. Listen, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm not on the project sites, but I've been here for over 15 years, and I can tell you when I first came in and went to some of the workforce development meetings around the industry and stuff, and there was 3 women in the room, and, it's hard to get your voice heard, and it's hard to speak up. I think everybody in the room was very respectful to me and wonderful to me, but nobody asked me my opinion.
Hmm.
They asked me my opinion now, but that's because I got used to it too, right? I had allies in those groups, and I had people that cared about what I thought, and I got my legs underneath me and I started speaking out. And so I just think that that's a lot of what it is.
I love that, and I think maybe it's certainly we're not being in with any intention
Nope.
making it an uncomfortable place, but maybe we need to, with more intention, make it
Yeah.
comfortable. And I think there's a cultural thing in most organizations that I work with. I'm really only qualified to comment on the construction industry, but I bet you it's outside the construction
Yeah,
industry
it
too.
is.
That kind of like the people who um, take the bull by the horns and show initiative and jump in and do. And I would honestly say actions. This is just a key thing to keep in mind for any young professional, male, female, doesn't matter. actions speak much louder than words.
Yeah.
Being great is way better than talking a great game.
Right.
Um, I find that performance earns you space, but you have to show that you want it, and you gotta,
Right.
come in. And I think, maybe and probably a too heavy a topic for today, but just I'd be interested in learning how workplaces can, because I really think it just boils down to confidence. Like, give that person the confidence that they can do this, and that nobody's like that it's wanted, that growth and speaking your mind and contributing and all those things are truly wanted. So how do we boost that person's confidence to give them evidence? Because you won't know until you try.
Right.
Your voice does matter. And then how can we make sure that we don't send a very coded message when they do speak up, that we're like, oh, no, 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 your voice doesn't matter. Because
Right.
there are definitely ways with body language and
Yeah.
tonality to illustrate, like, don't ever do that again.
Right. Absolutely.
And there are ways to say, like, that was awesome. I may not agree, but thank you, and
Right,
continue to work.
absolutely. Some of that takes training, Chad, right? Like that's part of the training is just
Sure.
we're all in this together. Let's just learn to live together, work together, and do this together. And there's some training that needs to happen. And I think you made a really good point too, that you may not, it may be a group in a meeting or whatever, predominantly men, and you may not think about this, but you are seeing other men speak up. You're seeing other people that look like you and talk like you speak up. If
Totally.
I'm the only woman in the room or there's two other and none of them are speaking up, then is this how I'm a young woman, is this how I'm supposed to behave? Because I don't even have anybody encouraging me. Yet, like I said, everyone else in it that are men in the room have other men talking about it and doing it and saying it. No one's
Totally.
asked me. I don't even feel like I'm supposed to be a part of the conversation because nobody looks or talks like me
Yep.
that's in the conversation. And nobody's thinking what I'm thinking. But guess what? That that emotional intelligence, that empathy, I'm thinking in those lines, I should speak up. And that's why you should ask me what my opinion is.
I love it. Completely agree. All right. Well, this is wonderful. I wonder, shifting gears a little bit, into, I know another a topic that you do a lot of research on, and you've done a lot of work on, which is workforce training. How can I know that's what you're all about, equipping people to build a career, right, in construction. How can companies measure that return on investment, so that when you're trying to convince a company, right, to spend thousands of dollars on, X person to help
Yeah.
X person to become better. And by the way, I'm with you. I train a different side of the equation, but it's a very, very similar experience as we train people in soft skills, or we train people in leadership and things like that. There's this question, like, what's the ROI? What's your answer to that question? What's the return on investment for training?
What's interesting because we're actually doing a big study right now. We just finished up the initial study. We had over 230 companies participate in this, giving us feedback. We have not compiled all that. We're going to put out the preliminary research this summer, starting in June, because we really want to do that. And what we're looking at there is we're looking at rework, safety,
Mm,
productivity, quality, but then we're also looking at retention, the availability of young leaders. There's other things. So there's very things that we're very it's very traditional for us to think about, golly, our rework. This has been terrible on this project site. What's going on? What we want to do is really show when you have trained people, there's several things that happen. Number one, you talked about earlier. Number one, they have confidence in their skills because they know what they're doing. We have too many people that show up to a project site and they're thrown in. You're just going to learn as you go. You're going to learn while you go. That's how I learned. I was put on a project site. I just had to do it the hard way. You're just going to learn it the same thing. Think about what you're saying. I'm willing to have a project done poorly, not have good quality or productivity, potentially have rework, even some safety issues because I don't have time to train. I don't really have time to invest in that person. Listen, investing in your workforce is the best thing you can do for growth of your company. You want people to stick with you. You're tired of having a revolving door. We know what turnover is costing the industry. We know it for a fact that people are talking about all the time. I want training. In fact, a lot of the big HR organizations are doing it. And there was just a survey, and I was looking, I think it was 2024, 45% of the workers said they would be more likely to stay at the job if an employer offered them skills training.
Yeah.
45% said that they would be more willing to stay. And even 93% of organizations are worried about retention. Listen, do we need to recruit more people into the industry? 110%. How about the people you already have? Have you trained them up? Have,
Yep.
have you looked at your incumbent workforce and really thought about, could I make them more productive? Or am I really helping them to do their best? And am I getting the best out of them? Are you looking at your rework and what projects that's happening on, your safety incidences? I mean, we as an industry have gotten fantastic about safety. Look, we are so committed to safety. We do so much training. I am thrilled, but we're not doing the rest of the training.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's where we need to look. And I'm excited about this study because I'm excited to see when we start doing some of these comparisons in these areas, what will we find out? I think we know. I think all of us know kind of out here on the outskirts, but I think once we put the data behind it and we can show contractors and show our industry, look, by investing this much, this is what you should expect, and these are the areas you should expect it in. And you should even look at the longevity of your company. You should look at the reputation of your company. All of those things can play. If you don't train your people and your people aren't staying, they're not happy, they don't feel like they're being successful, how is your company going to be successful?
That's awesome. It's the old adage, what if we train them and they leave? And, it's well, what if you don't and they stay,
And
right?
they stay, God forbid.
What I, the message here this jives with what I've always found as well is that, um, if you should be a lot less worried about your people leaving if you are investing in them. That's what makes them stay. And if you're creating a culture of growing your people, you're unlikely to have people running from your organization.
Exactly.
You're much likely to have people running to it. So take the
Absolutely.
leap, make the investment, start investing in growing your people. And little side note, you probably need to be growing your business at least at a moderate rate so that those people have opportunities for growth, because that is another piece of it.
Absolutely.
If you have people that are getting really, really good and you don't have opportunities for them to move up in their career, you can get stuck. So
Well,
uh,
and I'll tell you, last year, if you talk about Gen Zers, so we talk about in general 45% of workers, but
yeah.
I was just looking at this. LinkedIn did a survey, and 76% of Gen Zers think learning is key to a successful career and expect it when they're hired on a job.
I mean,
Like
how could you
76%.
how could you not feel that way? Just I mean, like, how could you be like, nah, learning's
Don't train
learning,
me.
right? Like, I don't need to get better. It's you just I'll read a different headline. 24% of Gen Zers should not be hired anywhere.
Bingo. Bingo. There you go. There you go. That's not the person
76%
that
have
you
a
want.
brain.
Yeah.
24% should not be hired anywhere.
Yeah, because once you invert it, even the way you're talking about it, like when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, of course they would want to be trained.
Right.
Because who would say that? No, don't teach me how to do that. I'm really happy being a level 1 welder. I don't
Right.
actually ever want to get to TIG. I don't want to do anything else. Just let me stay here.
Well, it's a different topic for a different day, but I got to tell you that I do feel like there is an allergy to building a career that I'm seeing from certain people, and it's not it is there are generational trends, but there are so many the number of people that I talk to are sort of like look, I this is just a job, I just work to work, I have a whole life. I'm like, dude, this is a part of your life. The happiest people I know love their work. What is wrong with
Right.
you? Why would you be miserable with 40 hours of your week? Like, I just got to suffer through this thing. Anyway, different topic, different day, but it is a,
It's a
I
big
think
one though.
we
Yeah,
need to bring back pride in our work, in general,
we
and be
do.
like,
We do.
understand this is a lot of where your life fulfillment comes from, my
Right.
friends,
Right.
is a sense of contribution to the world around you and the economy and all these, like, you should feel really proud and the ability to provide for
Absolutely.
your family.
Absolutely. Well,
And
we've done a poor job as an industry, like really talking about what we do. I try to tell people all the time, we build the hospitals, we build the cancer centers, we build the schools, we build the places of worship, the stadium. Like it's not the athletes that build the stadiums. Who do you think builds the stadiums that you go to, or the hospitals that you go
That's
to?
right.
We need to make sure that people understand who's keeping our country running behind the scenes.
Yep, there's a reason it's essential, right? There's a reason that it was categorized as such. Jennifer, this has been a fantastic conversation. How can people engage with you? What would you like to promote? Is there anything that if people who are like, darn, Jennifer's a wealth of knowledge, she was awesome. How do I learn more?
Well, certainly you can follow me on LinkedIn or social media. That's great. But, visit our site, visit nccr.org. There's a lot of information, regardless of who you are. We even have a Build Your Future site for young people or anyone that's thinking, like, I don't know what construction's about. How do I even get into it? What do I do? Because we've done a poor job as an industry. Anyone can look up how to get into college and find a million things to do.
Right.
Nobody can go, how to get in the construction industry and what am I going to do when I get there? So that's one of the things we're really working on right now is how do we make it more accessible? How do we make sure that people know? So I would say check out our sites. The last thing I would say is I want people to know shop class is not dead. We have seen over the past few years unbelievable signs.
Yeah.
Not only are we getting, enrollment in vocational focused community colleges rose 16% last year, 23% in students studying construction trades. Career tech schools are seeing 20% growth. But I can tell you, NCCER is seeing it. We're seeing an uptick in every area. In fact, in high schools, we see more high schools than ever starting programs. We started this high school builder program to help high schools make it easier for their first construction program. And we did 83 schools in less than 15 months that
Wow.
signed up. They were like, sign me up. And then we've got people like Procore and DeWalt and Bechtel Foundation and all of them that are saying, let us help. And they're sponsoring these schools to start these programs. It is a beautiful thing that's happening right now in our industry.
It really is exciting. It gives you hope that we're going to
It
start to
does.
solve this, pervasive workforce issue that we have. We are gonna need it.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people who are retiring in the next generation, and it's awesome to see and hear all the good work you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jennifer. Have a great one. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Huddle.
Thank you for having me. Had a great time.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. All right. So let's talk a little bit about next week. We're going to have two project management pros on from Coakley and Williams Construction, which is a Washington, D.C. based contractor that does a lot of commercial and multifamily work. And can't wait to pick these guys' brain about what it is to be a project manager in today's construction environment, working for a GC, how they buy, how they sell, how they manage. It'll be a great conversation. So be sure to check us out for that next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you're not already following us, go to the morninghuddleconstructionshow.com, follow all our stuff, go to old episodes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the places. And if you or somebody that you know is creating positive change in the construction industry and you'd like to share that contact with us, we are always interested in building out our roster of wonderful guests like Jennifer. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you as always for joining. See you soon.